This is the Filmcast. We're here to talk about Decision to Leave, the newest film by director Park Chan-Wook. I'm going to read the plot summary from IMDb. A detective investigating a man's death in the mountains meets the dead man's mysterious wife in the course of his dogged sleuthing. End quote. All right, Devindra Hardawar, you and I are obviously big fans of Park Chan-Wook. Watching Old Boy was a formative experience in our movie watching existences. Now Park Chan-Wook comes out with his latest film. It's kind of a police detective drama. What did you think of Decision to Leave?
I loved it. Like it is one of those movies when I'm watching it where I feel like, oh, this is just made for me. Everything about it, because I'm a big film noir fan. I'm a big Park Chan Wook fan. I love his sense of style and the way he tells stories and how unconventional he can be. But also watching this movie, the basic setup sounds like Vertigo, basically, or many other noir films. But he's just having so much fun during this movie too, like every way the camera moves, every way things are blocked, just ideas of like there's a lot of Hitchcock here. There's a lot of like Rear Window too, of the detective like keeping an eye on the potential suspect, but also envisioning himself in her room. Just lots of really fun techniques that made this movie just really enjoyable to watch. Like I made the decision not to leave. I just want to be in this world forever because it's so much fun. And
I made the decision to leave the theater after I finished watching the movie because it was so good. That
because
is,
it was so good. But after
I made the
after you
decision
saw
to
it.
leave
Yeah.
my house to go to the
go
theater.
to the theater. That would have been much better, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you're writing the limericks here. Anyway, but yes,
It's also
yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say, like, it is a found counterpart to The Handmaiden too, which is also a bit of a fun, also kind of a fun crime thriller too. And both movies are sexy in their own ways, I'd say, right? Like Handmaiden runs very hot. There are some scenes in that movie which are just like, whew, you just gotta like my monocle popped out of how just like hardcore that movie went. My
Well done.
goodness. My word.
There's graphic sex in The Handmaiden, but in this
sure.
movie, it's not as graphic.
It's not graphic at all because it's more like In the Mood for Love or something. Like it is more about a sense of longing and a sense of connection that these two characters clearly have together, but their relationship may not be like very realistic. It's just fascinating. Maybe that's just me because I'm also a sucker for kind of doomed romances like that. I remember reading Ethan Frome in high school and being like, this is, I don't know what's happening here, but this is really compelling and interesting. So that's just my type of story. I love everything about this movie, but especially Tang Wei, who I've seen. She's been in like many, many movies. I forgot she was in Lust Caution.
Yeah, most prominently Ang Lee's Lust Caution, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and she was fantastic in that. She was also in Black Hat, and I forget everything about Black Hat.
Yeah.
But she is just so beguiling and interesting and also fun in this movie too, where clearly it seems like she's toying with a detective after a certain point, but they also clearly have like a sort of connection too. It's not all just like manipulation. I find this movie fascinating. I've only seen it once, and this is a movie where I'm like, as soon as I got out, I was like, I do not want to leave. I kind of want to go back and do this again. So I cannot wait to rewatch it and like peel through the meanings of this movie because it's so much fun. And, by the end, also, again, Park Chan-wook finds a new way to like, break my heart a little. So yeah, loved it altogether.
All right, Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on Decision to Leave?
Well, Dave, I guess my thoughts on Decision to Leave are best summed up in the form of a limerick. In this film, Park Chan-wook has employed techniques that excite celluloid, but it failed to enthrall. It's a film overall I admired much more than enjoyed.
Okay. All right.
I think this, now that we bring it up, I didn't even really make the connection in my head. I didn't recall our review of The Handmaiden.
I remember you were like cool in that movie until it flipped a little. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I feel kind of similarly in that like every shot is meticulously crafted. It is extraordinary level of craftsmanship. The filmmaking is worth seeing this movie for in and of itself. I mean, there are shots where I'm like, how long did it take to set that up? How many takes did you have to do to make sure you just got it just right where the sun is hitting the thing at with the mirror is he just cuts the thing at the right of the. It's amazing. That level of precision of meticulous filmmaking is awe-inspiring. It really is. Very few filmmakers will even attempt half the shots that this movie, and it's like every shot is that.
Yeah, there's no lazy shots in this movie.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Jeff, but I do want to say there was a VFX reel that was released for this movie online. Would highly recommend you watch it because I think it might shock you how many shots
all fake. It's all
had
fake.
visual effects in it. It's not
But
fake.
it's still
there's a lot of craftsmanship.
No, it had to be envisioned.
Exactly. No, that's why I stand by what I've said so far. Is that the notion of that's the best way to convey this moment has to start in your head.
Exactly.
And you have to be able to convey that to the effects team. So,
but like as an example, like many of the driving shots where like they're in a car, those are all like CG background. Like it doesn't feel like it because it feels like it feels very real. So many subtle CG shots in this movie, really, really effective. Okay, I will let you finish.
It's a great note because it does feel like everything was meticulously, and it is meticulous, but it's also perhaps not as in camera as it appears.
Correct.
That said, I just did not care for these people. I did not want to be around these people. I think they're all awful humans. And I just didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to grasp onto. Now, I think Devindra is spot on when he calls it a noir, right? This is a neo-noir for sure, 100%. And a lot of the hallmarks of noir are everybody's pretty crummy. Right? You got your femme fatale, you got your gumshoe detective, and oftentimes they're both terrible. Chinatown, I don't love anybody in Chinatown. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not about loving them, though. They're interesting. Like, they're interesting characters in those movies.
And often in films, my interest for the characters transcends their likability. That's completely natural and normal and frequent.
That's like every Jack Nicholson character. I can't imagine when has he ever played a fully likable character.
I don't mean to imply that movies need to have likable people for me to enjoy the movie. I just found the decisions to leave or whatever, what have you, made in this movie are just, I'm like, I can't abide. I can't abide
because of the choices they're making. Is that what you're saying?
Oftentimes, yeah. Okay. And it is so it is just infused. Like the spine of this movie is I wouldn't get to it in spoilers, but I found it to be more frustrating than interesting as far as an exploration of their push and pull of desires and decisions. And to me, that hurt the enjoyment of the movie. I was frustrated by the constant dumb things that they were choosing to do. But I don't mean that to take away from what I think is a really fascinating work of art, which this movie undoubtedly is, and well worth watching, well worth seeking out. It's just not a home run for me personally.
Yeah. I definitely closer to Devindra than Jeff, but I'm probably in between you two. I liked this movie a lot. I think the Devindra's comparisons are great. The noir comparisons are great. And as Jeff indicates, every frame is incredibly composed. Like it feels like so much care went into this movie. Also, Devindra, you kind of hinted at this, but like Park Chan-Wook, in my opinion, is really pushing the boundaries of visual storytelling by just doing things that most directors dare not do because they would be confusing, right? But he's like, "F it, I'm just going to do it anyway." Like,
people,
here's an example. Here's an example. Like, very early in the movie, there's like a shot of an X-ray, like of a character, because an X-ray is important. To show like a character's X-ray, and then all of a sudden the X-ray like comes alive and starts like moving around. It's just there to kind of create a mood, create a tone, and also like it has metaphorical significance as well as to like why that X-ray is coming alive at that point in time.
Well, also you'll have characters that aren't in a scene, standing in the scene observing it, because they're hearing about that scene or they're somehow connected, and that could be very confusing.
A character will talk about what happened in the same location earlier on, and then like you'll then like rack focus to like a person in the background actually like playing out what actually happened earlier on, like previously on. and that's just stuff that like directors generally don't do because there is a danger that it will confuse the audience. Like, what? Wait, why are we seeing that person there? But Park Chan Wook is fearless in this regard. Like he's just charging into these decisions, and I think for the most part it really works. I love how brave he is when it comes to visual storytelling. So I agree, it's definitely worth seeing. Um, but yeah, I also feel a little bit like Jeff, where like, did I really like love these characters? Tong Wei is so good; she's like just so compelling to watch
Yeah.
as a character. But when it comes to like the actual decisions that these characters made, and and how things evolve between the two of them, I'm a little bit more mixed, and so we can talk about that more in spoilers. But overall, I like the movie a lot. I don't know that it would be in my top tier Park Chan Wook though. It would probably be my mid tier Park Chan Wook, honestly. Um, Devindra, like, do you have a sense of where it would go? Like, where does this fit in
Hmm.
with you with like the Old Boy and the Handmaiden? Like for me, Old Boy and Handmaiden are still like above this movie in terms
I have to
of
think,
yeah.
because I love so many of his movies for very different reasons. Old Boy still tops for me. I think Lady Vengeance is one of those things that's like, oh, you just made the definitive movie about revenge, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they all like hit different spots for me. Even Stoker, a movie which wasn't entirely successful, was his like English language debut, and it's such like a big, interesting movie.
Yeah.
I can't I can't place it. I would say I think I like this one more than The Handmaiden, just in terms of the
Mm.
energy of it and the vibe of it. I really liked Handmaiden, but I didn't connect with it as much as this.
This to me is mid tier Park Chan Wook, which is still like better than 90% of the
Oh,
movies you
sure,
see. You know,
exactly, exactly, yeah.
and it would be around Stoker for me. Like I like Stoker, enjoyable movie, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is one
Mhm.
of the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
I,
This
I
is
mean,
a
it's certainly
yeah.
better than The Little Drummer Girl, which
Mm,
nobody saw, but that was the like AMC British series he did,
mm, mm.
starring what's her face, somebody. It was Florence Pugh. It starred
Yeah,
Florence
yeah, yeah.
Pugh,
Wow.
and
Wow.
it was just kind of dull and boring, but at least it looked interesting because
Yeah.
he was involved. So you can kind of see like when he's fully like engaged with the story, and I just feel like here from the beginning too, like this movie just starts, you're in the middle of everything. You're in the middle of like the guys in the firing range just shooting the shit. The kind of crummy younger cop and the lead cop.
Mm.
And it just throws you in. It does so many things that feel jarring and weird and disorienting. I just love being on that ride. So I think it's more like, how do you vibe with certain storytellers? It's like the first shot of Old Boy, where I'm like, oh, you got me. You got me for life. So it's like this movie just kind of did that for me again. It gave me that same sensation. So yeah.
Yeah.
I do think there is something to be enjoyed about the meandering nature of it. Like you really get a sense that because it's meandering, and they're introducing characters like his cop partner and both times his cop partners, and it's like you get a sense that this is like a full life that you're
Yeah.
witnessing a glimpse of,
You're
right?
jumping
And
in the middle of the story. So
yeah,
even if like the detective's wife isn't fully sketched out, which is a shame and tends to happen in a lot of these movies, but you also get a sense like, oh, like she has a life outside of this too. And even like the stuff that happens towards them at the end, like it's not entirely clear what is going on in their relationship, but the world is moving on. Like this is a world that's
yeah,
alive in a
yeah,
way, and I kind of respect that too. Yeah.
yeah. For
Also
what you're saying, yeah.
interesting that in a movie that's ostensibly, about a detective and a mystery and a case, that the movie at the beginning is kind of throwing you into multiple cases that they're working
Mhm.
on,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not really delineating
yeah.
which scene is investigating which case and which piece of evidence applies to which case. And I thought that's really a bold, interesting thing to do, because that's kind of how cops operate. They're not just, working on the
Yeah,
single
it's
one
not
case.
linear. It's not
Mhm.
linear,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
really fascinating. And I've never really seen a movie do that, where it's like, well, today we're trying to get that guy who did that one
Mhm.
thing. Well, I'm
yeah,
also working on this other case, but that's how detectives work.
yeah.
You're not just on
Mhm.
the one case, you're 24/7, you got multiple cases in your
But
Yeah.
desk.
it also tells us like that is the mindset of this detective. By the way, played by Park Hae-il, and I got a lot of like Vincent Hanna vibes, like from Heat, like a guy who is like he is in the job. Like he can barely exist. He doesn't want to sleep. He's an insomniac because like he only exists. He can only like live and breathe when he's doing this work. And you kind of see there's a really fun foot chase in this movie. Is just like I did not expect that guy to be able to accomplish that and then like jump into a fist fight and be like just ready to do it. And it's like this is how he lives and breathes. So that's why I'm also like, yeah, these characters make very dumb decisions, but damn, are they interesting? Like, what is up with this guy? If I met this guy at a bar, I'd be like, dude, you're the most interesting man I've ever met. Because he's kind of a cool cucumber as a detective, but he's a bit foppish too. Like he gets to keep his nails clean, his hands clean. Like he has his little idiosyncrasies. I like those things. Like that's what interests me too. Like Tang Wei's character, what man, she has had a rough life, and seeing how she survives is kind of fascinating too. Like I don't think the movie victimizes her in a way, even like where things go. Like she is still like has her own sense of self and motivation that I really appreciated. Like these characters are so textured and multi-layered. I found them interesting, even if they're not always likable, you know?
I think it's always interesting watching a movie that's not set in America to see cops not having to worry about the bad guys having a massive arsenal of guns.
Yeah.
You know, like
he's having this whole in Athena too. This dynamic was there in Athena as well.
You got a knife? I'm ready for a knife. I got a knife glove.
The guy pulls out a knife. That's what he's going to pull out. That's what he can get.
I got my knife glove. I'm good.
My silver Michael Jackson knife fighting glove.
Yeah.
So rad. So rad.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, why don't we get to spoilers for Decision to Leave starting right now? By the way, Park Chan-Wook has denied that he was inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, FYI. So
I've looked up early articles around him, and literally his inspiration to become a director was after in college, like seeing Vertigo for the first time. It was like, I need to do this. So it's there. It's there somewhere.
Sure. I mean, he's just said about this movie, but you're probably right about him generally.
Yeah, buddy. Like I can see. We've all seen Vertigo. We see the parallels.
I don't know. Not inspired by it. Don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Who remembers that?
About another guy obsessed with a woman. You know.
So any thoughts on the ending of this movie? I mean, it's a pretty.
It killed me.
It's very beautiful ending. There's some all-timer shots in that ending, in my opinion, right?
I mean, I talk about movies that crush your soul. This is a movie that was doing it actively. It was like, oh, I see what's going to happen here, and I know Park Chan-Wook, and I know this is not going to be a happy ending. So yeah, I was ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like first of all, Jeff, as you were describing, multiple cases. I'm spending the first half of the movie. I have to say, I was disoriented for a significant amount of the movie because I'm like, what is this movie going to be focused? Like, what is the main story? I didn't watch any trailers, and even if you did, you wouldn't tell you. But then you find out, it's about this woman who is like responsible for her husband's death. And then she gets married again, and then he dies under mysterious circumstances as well. I have to say, I mean, Jeff, I know you weren't as big of a fan of the movie, but did you not get a rush when he discovers the phone that has like the difference in like elevation?
So good.
Like, and he like puts together like how she switched the phones, and like, was that a great moment in the movie?
Awesome stuff in it. There's awesome stuff. I just am like, this putz. Come on, dude. Your wife is awesome. She's awesome.
Is she?
I think she is.
They really
all the time.
She sees him.
Like,
he only sees her on the weekend. I don't know.
They really gave the wife short shrift in this. Like they really shivved the wife character metaphorically in this movie. Like the only thing we know about her is that she's like a nerd, and it's like, guys, come on. This is
she works at a nuclear facility.
Yeah, she works she's a genius who works at a nuclear facility.
A friend named June.
A lot of movies like this will go to great pains to make that spouse unlikable.
Yes.
So that you will feel okay when the husband steps out. And I thought it was actually bold to make her perfectly willing to like do the work in the marriage and be present and be like, she's all every interaction we have with her. She's great. Like she meets, they have that awkward foursome thing and she's being awesome. She's not like accusing anybody of anything. Anyway, but the result is like, man, this guy's I found him to be such a, I don't know.
He's married to the job. Like it is all, when it comes to like visual storytelling like this, I'm like, okay, what is this telling you? Like, he's got a great wife. Clearly she's into him. She wants to have sex. Quite often she's saying like, Les, we need to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So that's what good married couples do. But his disaffection with it, because this movie has not that many sex scenes, but there is one with the two of them, which is just like, very cold and very weird in a way where it's like she's just sitting there and he is like fully off on another planet.
He's looking at crime dramas.
Looking at the crime dramas, thinking about his own cases. And we're like, that's not his love, you know. Maybe his wife is super cool, but maybe they're just like, he did not make the decision to leave. And a lot of people don't take that extra step to be like, hey, we're actually not that great for each other, or at least you could be happier with somebody else, I could be happier with somebody else. That, I don't know, it felt kind of
Yeah.
human in that way. Yeah.
I think that's ultimately like the thing that resonates most with this movie, with me about this movie, is this idea that these two people love each other, aka the detective and Tong Wei's character.
Yeah.
They love each other, but they can only relate to each other through the context of this job that he has, basically, right? Through the context of crimes, right?
Yeah. I can only love you through crimes.
Exactly. And there's something like incredibly intriguing about that, but also very sad, right? Yeah.
That is Donald Trump Jr.'s birthday card from his dad.
Wow.
I only love you
just
through
like
crimes.
the lowest hanging fruit. That fruit is like on the ground.
Yeah.
It's touching the ground. But the interesting thing is that there is a love there. Like I was fully on board with them as like a pairing from that first like sushi that first like sushi dinner where they get the premium sushi package.
Yeah. The people behind the glass are like, what the fuck is this?
There's some awesome like random moments of humor like that throughout the movie that I really enjoy.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But their whole like it's a symphony, a synchronized symphony of like, okay, you put the thing here, I put the thing here, let's clean up, wipe the table, yada yada yada. Big bang boom, let's go. Perfect. They're perfect. Like it is such like, it's a thing of like finding somebody who you're just like totally simpatico with, and life makes that hard. You know, like it is. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, and it's not even like a romantic thing, like a buddy, a friend, or whoever, but like somebody who you just
some
like,
podcast co-hosts, let's say
podcast co-hosts. I don't know.
Talk about movies.
Yeah, I don't know. But it is kind of that feeling, and that is what I found endearing. Because yeah, these two probably could never really be together. Although it's one thing. It's like his honor to the job. Like he will dishonor his job enough to let a murderer go, but also he's like, well, seems like that guy had it coming, and I'm not doing anybody any favors by being like, okay, well, you know, she killed him. Just go. I'm gonna go here.
I like it.
Yeah. Basically, fool me once.
Yeah. It was, I'll dishonor my job, but not twice.
Not twice.
Not twice.
But even the second time, like, do you guys believe her explanation for it? Because I found that whole thing too was like, okay, well, maybe like, yeah, clearly that husband's not that great either. I don't know. We don't have the full story there, but also her explanation for how she cleaned up the crime scene, like basically doing the thing like nobody would do if they were actually guilty for something, but doing it because like, I didn't want you to like come to a, you know, blood-filled pool because I know you didn't like that. That is such a, I don't know how you like, clearly they would tie her to it, but she's also like, well, I'm thinking of you, buddy. Like this is a little thing, it's a little gesture. I remember you like this. I remember you mentioned this thing you wanted at one point in your life, and happy birthday. A clean crime scene. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's the part of the movie that really does resonate with me. I mean, what do you make of her decision to end her own life at the end of the film, Devindra? Like, what is motive? Is the idea that she is like grief struck that she can't be with this guy? Is that kind of like what you're?
She would either have to go to jail or ruin his life. You know, like that's ultimately like, there is so much on her tied to this, and he's too good of a detective to be like, well, I can't. You're right in front of me. This case is live. We haven't like settled it with like other explanations. Like it would ruin his life. Like it'd either kill him to like go against his job and what he really believes in. I don't know. I'm soul crushed. Like just the concept of what she does is another one of those Park Chan-Wook endings where I'm like, man, I'm just gonna sit with this for a while. It's like the ending of Old Boy too. It's like sort of a happy ending, but it's really messed up. I don't know. What did you guys think?
I don't think it's sort of a happy ending at all. I mean,
some people are like, well, it is the happiest ending that movie could have. I don't know.
It is a very haunting ending. You know, this idea of him like searching amongst the wave for something that he's probably never going to find is like all-timer great final shots, in my opinion. You know, just very, very, very compelling. But Jeff, any thoughts on the ending?
How do you even do that?
It's I mean, yeah.
I dig a hole and I sit in the hole, and then the water comes in.
High tide comes in, you just don't get up.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe the sand
Yeah.
kind of buries you too. You know.
It is, again, I am struck and amazed by the imagery of this film. The imagery is unparalleled. It is really, really something. I mean, at that point, I was just like, man, just get away from this chick, dude. It's like, you know, like,
She's so bad for you.
don't
man.
even
She's
go
so
there.
bad.
Don't
She's so
drive to
bad
the
for you.
beach. Don't. I don't know. I feel bad because I just wasn't emotionally
Mhm,
connected to these people, and
Mhm.
so I wasn't in that ending. I think it's a haunting, beautiful notion, but the movie worked. This movie worked on an intellectual level for me. It did not work on
Mhm.
an emotional level at
Mhm.
any point.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, any other moments from the movie you want to bring up, or anything else about the movie?
Every moment of this movie, like I would love to do like a live commentary of this movie at some point, just like talking about every little bit because I am fully enamored with it. But yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about it as a main review. You know,
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's worth checking out.
Worth
I
checking
mean,
out. I mean, there are so many incredible shots. You know,
Yeah.
the one with the rear view mirror where it comes down and it's like, that's amazing.
Well,
There's
there's tons of like subtle, as I was pointing out, subtle things. Like all the shots in the interrogation room were like all digitally altered
Wow.
because
Hmm.
the camera's in an impossible location. Like you see the reflection of them, right? The cameras, you don't see the camera, so the camera's in an impossible location. So there's like a lot of like subtle things like that that are just worth checking out. Yeah.
That time when they go to the crime scene and all of the red and blue lights are flashing everywhere and it's illuminated. He's like, turn these lights off. And I'm like, it's the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen in my life. He's like,
Yeah.
turn this crap off.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, the movie is visually just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it is really, really impressive that Park Chan-Wook made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.